Good afternoon and welcome to the third of our panel discussions today at the Schools and Nursery Show. My name is Fiona Cottam and I'm the principal at Heartland International School here in Dubai, and I'm delighted this afternoon to be joined by three of my colleagues from across the city. The question that has been posed to us today as part of our panel discussion is a very interesting one, but of course very topical. It is school during the pandemic, mental health impacts on students. And whilst we start to explore that topic over the next 30 minutes, it would be great if you've got any questions, please feel free to send them into the live feed, and we'll make sure that we try and answer as many of those as we can over the course of the discussion. I'm joined today by Jim Pasteur, who's the principal at Clarion School. Good afternoon, Jim. Delighted to be joined also by Linda Fissal, who's the head of lower school at Dwight. And once again, delighted again to be joined by my friend Simon Crane, who's the headmaster at Brighton here in Dubai and was with us earlier this morning as well when we talked about, international schools and joining schools. Look, the topic of the pandemic and mental health issues and the challenges that both staff and young people have faced over the course of the last 14 months is a serious one, one that we shouldn't be flippant about in any way. And certainly it's one I'm sure that many parents are concerned about in terms of manifestation of some of those challenges in young people. Just to start us off on that topic, Jim, let's begin with you. Have you seen those challenges in young people, or do you think they've been more resilient than we give them credit for?
I think the second part of your question is spot on where my school is concerned, because we are pre-K to fifth grade, or only next year to sixth, so the younger children are more resilient. They're not missing going to the mall to hang out, and the sports teams that travel around the city, and the trips and all those things, like schools that have high school and secondaries. So we've been fortunate in that. However, the impacts we do see, I see it more with our parents about perhaps at times obsessing about trying to keep things as normal as they can for their children. So play dates are very important in their bubbles and with their friends and family, making sure they staycation and get out of the house and do things. I recommended constantly in our newsletters all year when the nice weather came into play to get outside, get to the beach with your children, get out to a park, go somewhere and do something to get out of the house, get away from the laptop and the technology, even at home. We've had over 90% of our kids in every day all year long. So we're on that end of the spectrum. But it's at home where our parents talk about the impact, because they can't have the birthday parties. They can't go to the cinema as much, or they weren't in the beginning part of the year. That's been the biggest impact that I've seen with our age group of children.
It's interesting. And maybe there are differences depending on the age. I mean, Simon, Brighton has children going the whole way through. This year, you're at 10 or you're 11 this year? You're 11 this year. Okay. And what have you found in relation to young people and those challenges?
I think resilience is something that's inbuilt to all of us, and I've certainly seen children that have had an abundance of resilience actually for the most part. And we've been very fortunate at the college to remain open throughout and have the majority of our pupils in school learning face to face, and they've craved that human interaction, as have our parents. But certainly we've seen an emphasis on looking out for signs of anxiety, and we've done a lot with our counsellor to support that. And what's really important, of course, is communication and talking as a school to families. And we put on additional workshops just to help parents themselves spot signs of anxiety in young people, particularly in adolescence. I think that's the key age group where this has been more challenging because as we've heard already, the need for that human connection outside of school life, the birthday parties, the social events, and so on.
Linda, Dwight is up to which age group at the moment? And again, impact, what have you seen in school over this time?
Right. So we are pre-K to grade 11, the same as at Simon's School. And I would say that we may not know the impact of this pandemic for a generation. And so what we need to be doing, all adults, we need to be emphasizing that every child from 3 to 18 should have one trusted adult. And they don't even know that they need a trusted adult in their life, but it's important for you to be proactive and to walk up to a student, even if it's not in your division. How you doing? How's everything going? Is there anything you need? Because by being that person, they will feel a sense of somebody cares about me and my well-being. And that's what I would add, whether it's at home or at school, there's got to be somebody they can turn to and somebody who's checking in on them.
And we know that, we've seen some of the global reports, and I think you're probably right, Linda, this is something we won't know the impact of until years ahead. But are there any particular measures that, for example, at Dwight, you're putting into place to try and support this further? Any particular programs of study or any adaptations, for example, to curriculum, particularly with older students that you're putting in place?
100%. So we do in the lower school have an app that children can check in on a daily basis, and you can put in how you're feeling, and it immediately gets sent to 4 adults. Lower school head, the counselor, and the 2 classroom teachers. So somebody can immediately stop what they're doing and go and check in. We also do mindfulness and some yoga and some breathing practices. And they might not seem like much, but just teaching someone how to just breathe and be in the moment can have far-reaching impacts. And so I think that there's a lot that we can be doing, keeping it, like you said, as consistent as the activities that you do as consistent as possible also leads to students feeling centered and safe.
Any changes or adaptations, Jim, that you as a school community have either needed to put in place or indeed are thinking about putting in place because of what's taken place?
We've put some things into place that I would say that we might have done in a regular year, being my first year at the school. We've had some parents who are professionals in health and wellness and nutrition who came into workshops live with our teachers in a large space, and then online with our parents about eating healthy and mindfulness and yoga and quiet time. So we're trying to recommend a little bit of everything to keep things as normal as possible for our age group. Children getting outside and playing, and again, getting away from the technology. My interaction with parents of older children has been, I went to see a doctor I threw my shoulder out playing ball with some of the kids at school. And he was talking about how his older son is in online school and never leaves the house because all of his buddies are online gaming. So the impact of this COVID crisis has been, I feel, more in the older children who are getting sucked into an online world even more. And so how Dubai helps them all come out of this next year with a reopening and a spurt of growth in the city, and that's going to lead the country when we come back August 29th to school, I think it's going to be very important.
Yeah. It's interesting. Simon, we were talking before we came live on air about a program that you've developed at the school that you're putting in place in September to do with, was it well-being?
Yeah, so well-being is high on the agenda in Dubai, rightly so. And I think it's absolutely brilliant that it is being infused in all different schools and all different ways of life. And so we've taken that really seriously, and we've developed a Sunshine Committee to focus on well-being, both the here and now, but also into the future. So we are putting discrete curriculum time into our sixth form, year 12, in September to help move pupils on from the pandemic. And that's going to look at, some really simple strategies for self-help and balance of work and home, and also, what to do when things aren't going so well and when you're not feeling happy, and how we can support young people get through this and develop those skills into adulthood.
Okay. And for parents, what are schools doing to help parents? Because unfortunately, gone are the days, well, not unfortunately, fortunately, gone are the days where schools were just about children. Schools are now about our whole community, aren't they? Because we know how important that partnership with parents is. How are we supporting our parents? I'm wondering, Jim, you nodded your head there. Are you doing any particular work with parents to help them?
We're lucky the way our campus is laid out and the way we have our entry and exit for our pickup and drop off that we see our parents just about every day, all the parents. They get a minute or two with the teachers. Added to that is using programs like Seesaw, since we are a primary school. The teachers are sending something home every day. The kids are taking pictures of what they're doing in class and sending it on Seesaw, and their parents get to see it because parents can't come inside the classrooms this year. I have to admit, with our clientele at our school, I was worried about how they would follow the rules and regulations. They have been exceptional this year. Because conversely, the pressure in my community is more on the parents than on these young children about how COVID's being handled, because kids are resilient. Adults, we spend a lot of time overthinking everything, I think. And so our parents have been troopers in following the rules and regulations and understanding that when I say KHDA and DHA say that we have to do this, they understand and they nod and they say, my words, not theirs, inshallah. Next year is going to be different, and it is going to be different.
Yeah.
We're getting towards a takeoff point in the fall where we really have a reopening in this country. We're so far ahead of the rest of the world and what's going on that it's just going to be brilliant. It really is. And we're going to take a lot out of the things we're talking about today. Schools are putting a lot of emphasis on mindfulness and health and well-being, that not that we didn't before, but it's more at the forefront of what we're doing rather than a very important add-on. I think that's important.
When Linda, you talked about, how we're supporting the young people in school and devising the curriculums, but I think, Jim, you're absolutely right. Sometimes it's the anxiety of parents that it manifests itself actually on the children. The children themselves are quite buoyant and, as you said, Simon, incredibly resilient. Ways that you're working with parents, Linda, at Dwight, anything different that you're doing or planning to do in the future?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I think the way that we as schools need to look at this is crisis to opportunity. What can we turn this into that works and that's helpful to our constituents? And never say no to taking a meeting with a parent, being there, being willing to take a call, doing a Zoom session. They need it now more than ever. And one thing I would strongly recommend that schools do, and hopefully this stays throughout, this is one of these opportunities that has really become grand for the schools, is parent forums, bi-weekly, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Zoom. Parents can jump in, and it's that sense of safety and security that the school will hear me out. And I know it's coming every 2 weeks that there's a forum open that parents can jump in and talk about whatever they want to talk about, no agenda, because that's what they need. It's like with any of us. We need to feel heard right now. Parents need to feel heard right now. And we're there and we answer questions and we're fully transparent. We're going through something none of us have ever experienced, and we need to be able to talk about it and process it together.
Your idea of a bi-monthly forum is absolutely super. I love that idea. What types of questions are parents bringing to the table?
It's something, I had one Wednesday, and it's something that could be as simple as, can you tell me what's happening for the last term? Can you tell me the events that are happening? Or what are you doing to make sure the children are keeping their masks up? And, basic questions. It runs the gamut. Okay. And it's not maybe so much about the questions that they are asking as you're there, it's open forum, and they always know that they can count on you to be there to answer for them. So it's been great.
I think you're right. Parents need to know that we're there for them as much as they are. That's what makes communities, and that's what makes great schools. Simon, anything in particular at Brighton that comes to mind in terms of the partnerships with parents over the course of the year, particularly?
No, completely agree with what's been said, and we've also put in place parent groups, and I think a good point, just to build on what's been said already, is through those groups we call them parent ambassador groups, and they come together every half term. We also have a thriving Friends of Brighton group as well amongst parents, and what I've seen, which has been a real benefit, is connecting parents to parents.
Okay.
And that's the starting point is community, and I think that's made a real difference in parents feel supported from all different sides as we get through this.
I mean, one of the things that we have certainly found, and I'm just wondering if anybody else has experienced and what your thoughts might be, is that the concerns that young people have are very different concerns than they had before, and they're not necessarily pandemic issues, but they're now more acutely aware, for example, of parents perhaps losing jobs, parents perhaps being in financial difficulty. They were often the conversations that we kept away from our children. It's hard to hide those, particularly when you're living in Dubai, when there's job loss and there's cuts in salaries, etc. I'm just wondering, has anybody got any strategies or any ideas of what are they doing in their schools to help young people with problems that really aren't even children's problems, but problems that they're facing because of the world in which we live. Is there any guidance or anything different, Simon?
A really good starting point is a strong PSHE program.
Okay. So that's a pastoral social health education type program.
Yeah, I'm building on the moral education as well that all schools do, and having a program that's progressive as children get older, and keeping those topics live and relevant to the moment, and reviewing them with the parent ambassador group, with the student council, to make sure the right information is being discussed at the right time. And I think that really makes a difference.
Is there anything that we think, as educationists, that's missing? Any help that we think we need, Jim? Or I'm not being accusatory, suggesting that the government aren't doing the right things. I just mean, is there anything we think in terms of our training or our support that we might need to help us on this journey?
I think, and I'm not saying it just to be a Pollyanna and positive with the way the organizations, KHDA and DHA, have handled things, but I don't know how they could have done a better job this year. Dr. Abdullah and KHDA held online modulus forums the last several weeks with principals, and he answered every question honestly, and principals asked them from A to Z, very tough questions, and he was honest, and some of them were, we don't know yet, we're waiting to see. Vaccinations will tell more. We would like everyone to be fully open. So the government, I really feel, has been spot on with how they've progressed with supporting schools.
I guess I was thinking more about, I think of myself as a head. I'm not an expert on matters such as well-being, etc. And I'm not even suggesting at all that the government could put anything in place. But, are there places that we could go to, that we could help each other with? Are there online forums? Are there areas? For me, for example, Twitter has been an absolute godsend during this pandemic. I've learned so much from other colleagues who've shared articles and shared news information, because this is an unknown minefield for us as well as leaders, isn't it? Linda?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that the schools who are fortunate enough to have on-site counselors, we have been recommending that our parents who are having financial troubles or career loss reach out to our counselors. I do think it would be helpful if there was some kind of maybe a list of resources that are put out there. But I agree with you. Our KHDA and DHA help is bar none. It's been so helpful, and we've leaned on them so heavily. It's like a security blanket, isn't it? Yes. So we have that, and then it would be nice if our parents did have even more counseling services out there.
I think certainly when we see the indecisiveness that have come from governments in other parts of the world, we realise how lucky we are that decisive actions and decisions have been taken here, absolutely. Simon, training for staff to help them in this new field for them?
Yeah, I think, the pandemic, a silver lining for me is collaboration. I think more than ever, schools are talking to each other, and not just at head level, but at all levels. I've seen far more discussion, professional dialogue, and openness to share best practice. I think that really is a silver lining, and that's only going to help the pupils.
I think the wellbeing forum that KHDA ran the other week as well, in terms of all of those guest speakers, I think that was really informative for us as leaders as well. I'm just checking to see if there's any questions that have come in from different parents, and there aren't at this time. And I wonder if it's because really, they're working with us through this, aren't they? This is new to all of us. If you were to give maybe any piece of advice to, that average 12-year-old who's worried about tomorrow, worried about whether, what's going to happen? Will I have to wear a mask? Will I have to wear a mask? In our wisdom, I suppose, and maybe our age and our experience, what would be that one piece of advice you'd give them to help them get through the next weeks and the next months? And I'm looking at the brains, the cogs turning there, and Linda, I'm going to begin with you because you're nodding away, and I think you've got the idea in your head already.
I love that question so much because it gets to the center of what we do, and that's the child. And we need to let them know they will never walk alone in a pandemic or out of a pandemic. We, as the adults in the building, we will always be there to support them. And it's as simple as that. I don't know what else we can do. We're there for them. They are at the center, and we are there to serve their needs.
I think I got goosebumps when you said that. it is true, isn't it? That's our job. Our job is to be there for them 24/7 all the time, and they won't walk alone. And we might not have all the answers, but we're going to do everything we can to get them the answers, you know. Words of wisdom, Jim?
You know, even pre-pandemic, 12-year-olds were obsessed with, am I too tall? Am I too short? Do I have the right shirt? Do I have the right book? Am I in the right class? My locker won't open. I'm late. So-and-so likes me, doesn't like me. And all those things happen now, and they're going to happen afterwards with the next set of 12-year-olds. So they are being 12. Having said that, and I didn't mean to be flippant at all, having said that, they do feel more pressure right now. I think schools that are in a more normal setting right now with the kids in school, where we get to see them, okay, and get to see the look on their face and get to watch their body language, as opposed to, there are a lot of children out there in the world that are still fully online.
Yes.
And that is hard, where it's just their family seeing them. I think we are pretty lucky here, especially schools like ours, where the vast majority of children are in. So, 12-year-olds, what comes after 12? 13, then 14, then 56 someday. So, I'm still smiling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
They'll make it. They will.
I know. Simon?
I think, my starting point always is to look at what we can be thankful for, actually. And I think, we all can be thankful for so much living here in Dubai and in the UAE. And, the fact that the schools, vast majority of schools have been open and we've been able to have that human education on a consistent level, I think is going to make a real difference, actually, for generations that have been here during the pandemic. So I think, as hard as it is for 12-year-olds, and difficult decisions for them on their horizon, actually, they've got lots to be thankful for and lots of opportunity in the future as well.
I mean, it's good to hear, because there's times when I question, am I playing down the fact that there are significant and potential real mental health issues? But actually, from what I have seen of young people, is that we've got a lot to learn from them. They've been stronger. They've probably worried less than I have about being able to see my mother, because at least they're here predominantly with their parents, and they got their family close by to them. So that family is really, really important. But again, mental health is not something that we should ever dismiss. Or ever sort of say is not there. The signs maybe that parents could look for, just as a final pointer to parents, I'm at home, I'm with my 14-year-old or whatever it might be. What are some of those warning signs perhaps that we can help parents with, things that we've seen in school, things that they could look out for, without worrying them, without causing alarm? But I'm just wondering if there's anything, Simon?
I think firstly, my advice to parents, if there's any inch of concern, get in touch with the school and work through this together. We're at the end of a phone call, a Zoom conversation. That's what we're here for. But obvious signs to look out for are changes of behaviour, things that are going a little bit different, whether that's sleeping or eating or conversation. The basics of a day, things that alter, then that's certainly something that the parents should take seriously. Yeah. And they should discuss it.
Okay, good. Linda?
Yes, to add to that, if you find yourself saying, he's not normally like that, or she's not normally like that, then you can't make excuses. You need to dig in. If your child is closed off, it wants to be alone, these are all signs that there could be some kind of issues going on, and you need to have it checked out. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to dig in. You're your child's advocate, your number one advocate, and we can support in that way. Reach out to the school counselors, but take it seriously. This is our number one resource, our children. Yeah. So dig in.
Okay, thank you. And Jim?
I say not only just reach out to the school and to the counselor and to the principals, but reach out to in primary school, reach out to the homeroom teacher. They're with them a large part of every day. Reach out to that one special teacher in secondary. Maybe it was their coach last year. We might have sports going on, but if I was your 12-year-old son's football coach last year when they were 11, and I'm still in the same school, then reach out. Hey, Jim, have you noticed Mike lately? Anything going on? Because we've noticed a change at home. Sometimes the changes, it's hormonal. They're getting older.
Yep.
Sometimes it is that. We forget that in the pandemic now, that life is going on. Kids are growing and changing. But having said that, reach out to the teachers as well. And with email, Seesaw, and the other systems we use, WhatsApp, There are a variety of ways to reach out to the teacher. No teacher rolls their eyes and says, OMG, it's a parent that wants to ask me how their child is doing and dismisses it. All teachers get back. Yes, principals want to get back, but if we've got 200 or 300 or 1,000 students, we don't know the child as well as the homeroom teacher or the coach or the drama teacher who did the special activity with them or something like that. So reach out to that special adult. Goes back to the beginning. Who's that special adult in our life? They already have some from earlier in the year and from previous years, probably. Okay. So reach out to them.
Well, look, my thanks to our expert panel this afternoon, to Jim, to Linda, to Simon. I think the key messages, and I hope that you felt them yourselves as parents watching us today on behalf of the Schools and Nursery Show, is that, we are in this together. It's not a cliched hashtag. We very much won't allow anybody to walk alone, as Linda said. And certainly we will be there for you as parents as well to support. Harping back to Jim to leave us with some positivity, you talked about Dr. Abdullah's Majlis meeting that he had with principals, and that sense of hope for the future and positivity was very clear in his message, that we hope that once we get to the autumn term, that things will be better in our schools. But in the meantime, let's watch for those signs, let's work together, and let's work together as schools. So my thanks to our experts today. I'm delighted to have you here. And on behalf of the Schools and Nursery Show, thank you for joining us.